Alright guys, so I figured I would ride the Monster back to my house. So this is the last ride I'm really going to get to take on the Monster. Figured I would take advantage of it. I just want to get like a normal vlog out on it, not a first ride or anything. And so I figured, I was thinking about what will you talk about when you are doing your basically last ride on the Monster. And I wanted to talk about reasons not to get a Ducati. There are definitely some. Figured I would talk about it while riding a Ducati because, you know, irony. So this video might end up sounding like I am not a fan of Ducati bikes or something like that. And I want to make it clear from the get-go, I think Ducatis are fantastic bikes, but I feel like there are a lot of reasons why somebody would not want to own a Ducati. And that's what we're going to talk about today. It's not to imply that Ducatis are not good bikes or anything like that. But after having rebuilt this one, I've learned some things about the platform that I would personally want to... I would have to take those type of things into consideration before I actually went and purchased one that I was going to own. So probably the first thing on the list of reasons to not buy a Ducati is price. And surprisingly, I'm not talking about the price of the motorcycle. I'm talking about price of ownership. So if something breaks, you got to buy parts, so replacement parts. You got to get the bike serviced. A lot of the time when you get your bike a Ducati serviced, it has to be a Ducati like registered location, which is going to be pretty expensive. And then the replacement parts are going to be expensive. So getting the bike fixed or parts replaced is going to be pretty expensive. You have to factor that kind of stuff in when you decide you're going to buy a Ducati. So let's just say you're really tech savvy and you want to work on your own bike. Well, that's awesome. You know, that's the whole point of what I'm doing with Reg Bike Rebuild, is trying to learn how to... Damn, them brakes are not bad. Holy shit. You know, that's the whole point I'm doing Reg Bike Rebuild, is to learn more about how to work on my own bikes. So let's just say you're one of those guys. You're like, I'll buy a Ducati and I'll do all my own work on them. Well, then you get to an even more interesting situation where you are going to have to spend a lot of money on specific tools. And literally, I'm not talking like a size 32.5 Allen wrench. I'm talking like you have to have a very specific tool that works only with that motorcycle. And those things get expensive. Not only are those specialty tools expensive, but you're also going to have to order them from specialty shops or Italy, like from Ducati themselves. And that is going to be even more expensive. So like, yeah, Ducatis are typically more expensive than regular bikes, but like, you know, that's a one-time thing. That's one time that motorcycle is going to be more expensive. So price isn't really that big of a deal. It's that cost of ownership, that like, what are you going to have to do to make that bike run day in and day out over and over? Now, back in the day, from what I understand, older Ducatis had a really big problem with their maintenance schedule. Like, they were really expensive to get maintenance on, and you had like service intervals every 3,000 miles where you had to pay like a couple grand to get a service done on it. And that personally is just insane, to have to pay a couple grand every couple like 1,000 miles just to keep the bike running. Like, that's a whole nother level of cost of ownership just getting thrown out the window. From what I understand, Ducatis aren't like that anymore. Like the newer ones, they've done a really good job supposedly of making the service intervals not as often. And I don't know about prices. Obviously I don't own one, so I can't really talk about stuff like that. Let's get in this thing because I'm digging being behind the Porsche Macan S. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, if you guys don't know why I'm riding this bike, this is actually the finished motorcycle I did for a series I call Reg Bike Rebuild. I get a salvage motorcycle and I basically build it back, and at the end of the series I end up gifting it to somebody that supported the series. So If you want to check that series out, I'll put a link in the description for it. That's where we built this thing. But that's why I'm riding this bike and not one of my other normal bikes. So jumping back to the conversation we were having about, if you're one of those people that does your own work on your bikes and you're gonna have to buy these expensive specialty tools, another one of the kind of negatives for Ducati ownership, I guess, is the time it takes to get parts. And that's the same thing when you're talking about these specialty tools that you have to buy. You know, it's not like you can Amazon this stuff and get it in 2 days. You know, a lot of the times you're ordering stuff from Italy, and that's going to take at least like a week, depending on where you order from. Now, there's going to be stuff occasionally where you can get it pretty quickly. That, you know, there's a good spot in Dallas, somewhere in Texas. There's a good spot in Texas that has a lot of Ducati stuff, and those guys were fantastic. I bought a lot of stuff from them when working on this. But for the majority of the time, if you have to buy stuff from Italy, which that's inevitably going to happen, or, you know, the shop that you're getting your work done, they're going to have to order stuff from Italy. So what's going to happen is your bike's going to sit there for a while not getting worked on because the shop is waiting on parts for it. You know what I mean? So the time it takes to get parts is something that you're really going to have to factor into Ducati ownership. It's not like these Japanese brands that tons of people have just parts sitting around for. As a guy that was doing a lot of work at one time on this bike, you know, you run out of patience. You're like, man, I just want to get my bike fixed and get it back on the road. So I can tell you, man, it's so frustrating trying to get something done on your bike and you're freaking waiting for this tiny little part. You know what I mean? So this next thing I want to talk about, it could be just my luck when I was building this bike, but one thing that was so frustrating, I wish I could tell you guys, I wish I could explain how frustrating it was finding parts. Now, you know, I wanted this bike to be custom and I wanted a one-off looking bike. I didn't want any other Monster to look like my Monster if I could help it. And I was doing all this research and ordering these parts, and I had the worst luck where I would order a part from a shop, of which case the shops I had to order parts from were like the tiniest little hole-in-the-wall places most of the time, which made me seem sketch as hell because I'm like, is this place reputable? I don't really like ordering from real tiny specialty shops when the checkout process is real weird and not just like normal, like a normal big spot. Anyway, so I would always order these parts in multiple times. I'm not going to say the websites because I don't want to trash websites and stuff like that, but so many times I would order a part, I would wait like 3 or 4 days, and then after 3 or 4 days of waiting, after I paid this exorbitant fee for a part, I would then get an email that says, hey, sorry, we're out of stock of that part. And I don't know if that's just part of ordering things from a tinier website where they just don't upkeep their stock and their website enough, but you know, this is on top of having to pay a lot for a part. This is on top of having to wait a long time for the part to get made. Just for a general reference, this bike was supposed to have an SC Project exhaust. I waited 4 weeks and then was told that they didn't have it in stock and that they would have to order it from Italy. Like, that's just one example of very many. Finding the expensive parts that you have to put on the bike that you have to wait a long time for is very hard. So you can see that it's kind of stacked against you, where the parts are expensive, hard to find, and once you do find them, they take forever to get in. So all of that kind of came together with like, this is so frustrating to build or to work on a Ducati. Now, I do want you guys to take that with a grain of salt. When I was building this bike, you know, I was under a time crunch where I was trying to put episodes out on a consistent basis. You know, I had that pressure on me to always be like, get my parts quickly. So if you were just building a bike, you know, casually, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But keep in mind, if you're only, let's just say that I bought this Monster to be my only bike, think how frustrating that would be. You're waiting all this time for a part and you can't ride during that time. I don't know, I guess I would have probably been equally frustrated because I would have had a time pressure because I wanted to go ride or something. Hopefully that makes sense. That's just stuff that I kind of noticed while working on the bike. And I don't want you guys to get me wrong. I'm not saying this to like make you not go buy a Ducati. I think Ducati, the brand, is in probably the top 3 motorcycle brands when it comes to uniqueness of bike, and like I think Ducati bikes look some of the best. They have the most character. But what I'm just trying to let you know is I'm trying to be real with you. You know, I don't get paid by motorcycle manufacturers, so I can say whatever I want. These are just things I want you to know before you go in. You know, if you're used to like a Japanese bike like I was used to, I'd always had Japanese bikes before I worked on this Monster, and those are things that really kind of stood out to me working on an Italian bike. And I don't know if this is all Italian bikes or if this is just Ducatis or if this is just Ducati Monsters. You know, I don't have all that experience, so all of this is based on working on one Monster. Ducati's kind of like Apple in a way where you're paying for the brand name, and it's kind of different in the way that you pay for Apple for a lot more different stuff. You know, I feel like the pros and cons list for an Apple laptop or computer is much different than the pros and cons list from a Ducati bike. But one thing that you definitely do is you pay more for the name, but you do get stuff. You know, you get that uniqueness, you get the kind of, I don't know, the prestige of owning a Ducati. You know, some people that own a Mac computer think they're better than other people because, like, I have a Mac laptop, and I'm a Mac user, but I just don't feel like that at all. But I know some people that ride Ducatis feel like that. You know, like, oh, I ride a Ducati, I'm special. You're not, you drive a Chevrolet truck, I'm here riding a Ducati, I'm obviously better than you as a person in general. Now, I don't think that's a good way to live your life, but some people do. Some people get a kick out of, like, hey, I've got a, you know, you own an expensive motorcycle, whoop-de-doo. So, I don't know. Everybody's different. Everybody values things differently. You know, some people value performance in a motorcycle far above everything else. And then some people value looks way more than everything else. Admittedly, I will say looks to me personally are way more important than they honestly should be. That's actually the whole reason I even got a Yamaha R6 in the very beginning, was because I thought they looked better than every other Super Sport. So, you know, fun facts. What is that? So for a while I used to live in Savannah, and there's all time, it is a trolley. Oh, it's a freaking Premier trolley. That's awesome. I used to live in Savannah, which is like a coastal city of Georgia, for a while when I was going to college. And there was trolleys like that all over the place. I have legit not seen one since moving to Atlanta. So that was awesome. So yeah, guys, long story short, those are my feelings after having the experience of building a Ducati back. Whether there's a reasons to or to not buy a Ducati for you, you know, that's all your personal opinion. You know, you got to decide what fits your lifestyle and what you want out of riding the most. Hopefully that gives you some more knowledge into the situation, you know, to help you, you know, if you're thinking about buying a Ducati or something like that, maybe that helps you out. I don't know. But if you guys got to this point in the video, make sure to hit that like button. It is so freaking helpful to me, the channel, and the videos, and I massively appreciate it. And if you guys like motorcycle content, I make motorcycle content here on the Chaseontwowheels YouTube channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, regardless if YouTube sends you the notifications or not. You guys go out there and ride positive. I'm going to try not to die in this Atlanta traffic, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Later. It's interesting, riding on this Monster really makes me want to buy a bike and build it up just to have this really custom thing that nobody else has. There's something about that that's really cool. It doesn't even have to be an older bike. It could be like a wrecked 2016, but there's something cool about owning a bike that you put a lot of time into. And definitely something I'm going to have to consider down the road. I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm pretty sure it'd be a naked bike too, because I don't know, something novel about that. You know, just something to cruise around town with, and maybe take out the meetups and stuff like that. I can totally see that in my future. Anyway, okay, bye.